All right, good morning and welcome to the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Go Unit Radio, the heartbeat of dialogue. And as we always do it every week, the Science Brainwave is powered by DNA Learning Center Nigeria. And every week we talk about issues concerning science development and every single thing about science development in Enugu State and Nigeria, as well as Africa as a whole. And of course, this week I have in the studio Nnenna, Lydia. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chikizie. Thank you so much.
All right,
nice
Nnenna, thank you so much. Nnenna Lydia is the lead instructor of DNA Learning Center Nigeria, and she is a science communicator. And that brings us to the topic we'll be talking about today: science communication in today's world. And we are talking about we're talking about science communication in today's world, and of course we are looking at igniting curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. And if you're following us online, certainly you're watching us right now on YouTube and on Facebook. We're live on YouTube and on Facebook. So all you can do now is drop your comments and follow, ask questions as well. And remember, the Science Brainwave is not just about discussion. The science competition is still up for you to participate. Just call us and answer. Pick randomly from the 50 questions we have, answer 5 correctly under 2 seconds for 1 question, and stand the chance of winning big. And kudos to Chinaza, who won last week. And of course, Chinaza has a gift already. Chinaza, congratulations. And I believe you're watching us right now live from your location. And just like I told you, Chinaza, and for every other person, participation is limitless, so you can still win this week. All right, so we're going to delve right into what we have today.
Okay.
And I have, today we're talking about science communication in today's world. And of course, the idea is to ignite curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. And but before we go into it, you are the lead instructor with DNA Learning Center Nigeria, and of course you're a science communicator, I beg your pardon. Can you just give us a bit about your role at DNA Learning Center Nigeria, and can you just share a small memorable moment when students said, aha, like a reaction
I get what you mean.
when you show the power of hands-on and swell the power of you being a science communicator even while you're instructing?
Okay, I see it's a broad question, and of course I'll try to see how to match the 2 questions you asked. Like we say in DNALC, right, we are stem cells. What you mean when you say stem cell is that you can today be instructing, right, and then tomorrow you're the one running research. So but above all of this, I'm an instructor at DNA Learning Center Nigeria, where I tutor, I lecture students, I teach students, I instruct students on hands-on laboratory skills, right? So that's what basically I do at DNA Learning Center Nigeria. And if I remember correctly, the second question is the aha moment I've had. So it's been lots, like there have been lots and lots of aha moments for me, right? But there are 2 that stands out. First is, I think I've made a post about Mr. Eze, late Mr. Eze. He was a physiologist, and at that time I was the coordinator for training, and I just randomly was trying to coordinate the whole workshop before he started, and I saw him. Truly, I didn't believe that he was one of the participants, so he greeted me, and because I was in a rush, I didn't pay much attention and the rest of that. But getting to the class, I saw him. This is someone that was quite advanced. For me, at that moment, it was like, how can this man, at this advanced age, still be looking at equipping himself, enhancing his skills? So it was a very big moment for me, and it was a life-changing moment for me. And then, of course, there's this other girl. She's now in medical sciences, right? She's in medical sciences, I think, 2nd or 3rd year. She was part of the Battleston participants. She was among those that got trained during the Back to Science initiative. And I was amazed. The last time I saw her, she told me, "Ma, you don't recognize me." I told her, no, I didn't recognize her. And she said, okay, that you would remember me at the course of the training. And then there was a question I asked in the class, and she rose her hand and answered the question. It was that moment I remembered. I did lecture this student. I did teach her when she was in secondary school, and now she's in 3rd year. So she said yes, that Back to Science initiative made her have like a broader view of what the world wanted from her as a person, and she took that initiative and ran with it, and now she's in medical sciences. So there's been lots of aha moments for me, but these are the ones that like I can remember right about now. Sure.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and let's go straight to the next question, which of course has to do with DNALC's focus on molecular biology.
Right.
Okay, how being with DNALC for so many years now, okay, how will you assess this focus on molecular biology? How will you say this addresses Nigeria's real world needs?
Okay, all right. So first and first, right, our vision at the center is to be a reference point in terms of science education and research, right? That's our vision. And we are looking at creating a pipeline or like raising people who are equipped to tackle when it comes to tackle issues within the gene age and using molecular biology, of course. So at DNA Learning Center Nigeria, what we do is provide access to state-of-the-art facilities where people can come, not just mug up science, right? Not just what they memorize in classrooms and their textbooks. This time they have the ability to do these things themselves, like spark curiosity, right? So one thing in DNALC Nigeria is we found that there's a problem, right? In the education system, there's lack of hands-on learning. And then DNALC Nigeria is like, I am going to bridge that gap. I'm going to equip students with the right skills to be able to tackle the problem of agriculture, the problem of medical issues in Nigeria. Because if you do have the knowledge, right, like our assistant director would say, that the difference between you and I is what I know.
Yes.
Once you know what I know, you can do what I do, right? So what DNALC Nigeria is doing is we're providing skills, top tier skills for these students, raise them to be good with science techniques, laboratory techniques, and they'll be able to apply those laboratory techniques to solve real life problems and situations. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Nnenna, Lydia, and you've actually been talking like a science communicator. Sometimes I just wish we can just switch through, like you just be doing this because you're practically a science communicator. And of course, if you don't know Nnenna, all you need to do is just go to DNALC Nigeria page. All of our handles on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on which other handle do we exist in?
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn,
Yeah,
you'll just go there and see Nnenna's series, DNA Explained, and you see her communicating science that you, even as a layman, will understand. Remember, this is the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM. All right, and the lines are open for you to call in and participate in the Science Brainwave quiz, and as well ask questions. Not just the quiz, but you know that the quiz is where you win money. I know you don't want to miss out the weekend money. All right, call us on 081-8888-1069. I repeat, 081-8888-1069 or on 08076246701. I repeat, 08076246701. Call in and participate in the Science Brainwave competition and stand the chance of winning big. And if you want to see us online, all you need to do is just go to DNALC Nigeria on Facebook, on YouTube, and we are live right now. And you will see I and Nnenna Lydia talking about science communication in today's world, igniting curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. So then I'm going to ask you this. How do you think science communication is crucial for young Nigerians and society at large, especially in tackling issues like misinformation or inequality? Because this inequality issue really has a way of affecting women a lot. So how do you think science communication is crucial for young Nigerians and our society at large?
Okay. Anyone that knows me, anyone that like had like a good conversation with me in terms of, or within the axis of science, will know that I'm a firm believer that science shouldn't be locked away in labs. I'm a firm believer that science shouldn't just be understood by the elites or those within the axis of science, right? Science is meant for all, right? Because science more or less has answers to a lot of questions, has answers to what we're going through. So in science communication, I find the solution to misinformation, right? Because science is evidence-based and things are beginning to change these days, where anyone can set up their ring lights and then begin to talk to millions of people about what he or she has no evidence, no backends to. So when it comes to science communication, I feel what it does for us is it brings out the experts' opinion. It brings about experts coming in and explaining their findings, the concepts, breaking down those abstract understandings of science into very relatable and biteable sizes for the public to consume. Because when it comes to misinformation, it's alarming the amount of misinformation out there when it comes to health-related issues like the GMOs and things are there, the vaccines, and people's opinion about these things are very ridiculous. But then you don't blame them. Why? Because they don't have the right information. And that's because the right people, those who are really very informed or who know better, are not there to tell them. We have our papers published in good journals. Of course, that's fantastic. But when it comes to science communication, you're just not only communicating to your niche, but you're bringing out science to the whole public for them to understand and relate.
Hey, there's something you just saying now that really I love so much. You're not just communicating to your niche.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
bringing it all out to the public for them to get much more informed. All right. So, how has poor science communication hindered progress in developing countries like Nigeria? And then I want to ask you, what are the small steps? I know you begin with the small steps before we talk about the big steps. We can take to appreciate its value more. Already you're doing something as a science communicator.
Yes,
so I just wanted to talk from your experience and then expand the notion, because I know you can't do it alone. We need more people into it.
Yeah. So if I get the first question you had asked is you asked within the axis of
how poor science communication hindered progress in developing countries like ours.
Now, what a poor science communication does is that, you see, when people are not informed or not equipped with the right knowledge, right, they can't solve the problem. They can't have a solution to what we're going through. So poor science communication has hindered a proliferation of science as a whole in Nigeria or in the developing community, because you need people to really be curious, you need people to be interested in science and begin to take it upon themselves to start to find answers to questions and begin to look at solving the problems we have at a core level. But then again, the thing is, it's not everybody that is going to go into science, right?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. But what I'm proposing, or what I see, is the policymakers, right? They now have to play a role. And science communication is if I'm interacting or if I'm explaining science to you, right? And I tell you, this is that, and you understand it, and you're a policymaker, it's going to help you, right? It's going to inform your decision when it comes to policy making. But these are the things that developing countries like Nigeria don't have, right? We don't have access to really good information. They don't have access to good infrastructure and all of these things. So for us, what I've seen so far, or what I've come to realize, is that science communication on the basics, right, provides a bridge. Right? It provides a bridge for us to, cross over from the unknown to the known, right? So the problems I've faced in this niche that I created, or that we are in right about now, is that the visibility is not there. People are not quite intrigued, because those that have the audience are the ones that are not really informed in terms of science, right? So for you as a scientist, you have lots, like I don't have time. Basically, you spend most of your times in labs and doing research and the rest of that. And then the small time you have, you try to make, people to understand you. So majority of the scientists would rather stay back and just do the research and publish in journals, and would expect that the public go to those journals to read them. So that's one major challenge I've seen, the time constraints. And of course, there are people who would really want to go into science communication or say sciences, but they don't have the state-of-the-art facility. That's where DNALC, of course, comes in to bridge that gap. We have state-of-the-art facilities where you can train anyone around laboratory techniques, and they'll master that skill.
Of course, and remember, we are not just here to talk about science, we're still here to tell you that, yes, you're talking about science, but we still have a platform, a place where you can become an expert with just you being available. All right, and remember, we are this is still the Science Brainwave, and of course I have in the studio by our lead instructor, my madam at the top. I call my madam at the top, Nnenna Lydia, and who is the lead instructor at DNALC Nigeria, and as well as a professional science communicator who has spent a quality part of our life trying to communicate all the nitty-gritties of science. And today we're talking about science communication in today's world, igniting curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. And remember that you can be part of the Science Brainwave competition today. Stand the chance of winning a cool cash prize for the weekend. Call us on 081 88 881069. Repeat 081 88 881069 or on 080 7624 6701. I repeat that 080 7624 6701 to stand the chance to win big. Remember, for you to win, choose randomly from questions 1 to 50, answer 5 correctly, and you stand the chance of winning big today. All right, then I'm going to ask you this. At DNALC Nigeria, okay, how do you see hands-on activities, like the DNA fingerprinting and so much more that we do? Yes. So how do you see these activities? How do you see them make science fun and relatable for teens? How do you see this as a fun activity for everyone, especially for teens?
All right. Okay, I'll continue with the example that you already set, the DNA fingerprinting, of course. So I would just want to put it out there that when you talk about DNA fingerprinting, we're not just talking about the fingerprints, right? We're talking about the differences in individual DNA or the people's DNA, right? So DNA fingerprinting is using your DNA to differentiate between me and you. So in DNALC Nigeria, just like every other thing we do, we try to make it inquiry-based. We try to make it fun. We try to make it relatable. People usually don't forget things that they do with their hands and things that they see. So in DNALC Nigeria, we apply 4 things. We make you do it yourself. We make you see it. We make you practice and master it yourself. So in DNA fingerprinting, for example, the last time we had the students play pathologists, and of course they also played detectives. I think there was a scenario of a birthday party, and there was a mother, of course, hypothetical, right? Mother in the birthday party, and then there were like 4 suspects, and the students played detectives, and with those 4 suspects, and they tried to find out who the culprit is. Yeah. So they picked DNA samples from the sites and then matched it with that of the one picked at the crime scene, and they could tell, okay, oh, this is the culprit just by looking at the person's DNA and matching it together with the one found in the crime scene. So what we do is that we don't just tell you that, okay, DNA fingerprinting is you finding the differences between A and B. We make you see it, we make you do it yourself, we make you, put the skills, right? So when you're talking about DNA fingerprinting, these things, right, because there was a time, I remember sometime in, I think it's 2023 or thereabout, we had forensics. That was for for I think primary school students. I mean pupils, yeah, sorry, not students, pupils, right? Where they play detectives. It was fun. These kids could watch themselves do what FBI do, right, in the Hollywood movie, and of course I enjoyed watching them laugh. I enjoyed their curiosity. I enjoyed seeing them be intrigued, right? So at DNALC in Nigeria, we just like give you that which you can only imagine. We make you feel it. We make you see DNA beyond what people just talk about DNA and link it to paternity tests. And of course, no. So what we do in DNALC in Nigeria is just give you evidence, right? Make you find those evidence yourself, master those skills yourself. And by doing it yourself, of course, teens like things that are very, very, hands-on, what they can play with, what their mind can relate to. So DNALC Nigeria provides that platform and makes everything hands-on. So that's how we make it relatable.
All right. If you actually join, if you've hooked up to us online, if you've joined us online, we're actually splashing images from our last summer professional course. And of course, you must have seen Nnenna making her beautiful instructions and then keeping the students engaged. And of course, you're just watching some of the highlights of things that we do and how we keep you much more engaged. So let's go back to our science communication, and then you are an instructor right now. So can you just share with us the 2 to 3 simple strategies, like simple strategies instructors can use from experience, like storytelling or tech, to engage young people who think science is boring? Because one thing is, a lot of young people will want to tilt to art where they happen, but some people think that science is boring. But at least I know by experience, by what I've observed at DNALC Nigeria, it becomes exciting. Sometimes I even, at some point, I started regretting why I didn't do science. But so can you just give us 2 to 3 simple strategies instructors can use to make science less boring and more engaging for young people?
Okay. With my years of experience in this field, right, I would say I think you first and foremost, I think you need to find out what works for you as an instructor, right? That's the first thing I would say. But then again, one thing I would put out there is avoid jargons, right? People become less interested in what you're saying once you start to use scientific jargons. When I'm speaking to an expert, I know, okay, now you're speaking to an expert, right? You can start with the jargons. You can talk about the terminologies that are to be used, right? But when you're instructing, when you're teaching, try to use relatable words, right? Try not to bore them with like big scientific words. Make it relatable to them. That's one way. Another way is find a way to relate what you're teaching them with what is happening. Real life story, real life experiences. Like I told you what we did in DNA fingerprinting. If I'd come in and told students DNA fingerprinting is you extracting DNA, then comparing it with another person's DNA, that's DNA fingerprinting. Lots of explanation, right? They may understand it, but would they really remember it in 2 years' time? Would it make them want to pursue science? No. But when they remember that at some point in their life they played detective, they played FBI, right? They remember that concept, not just as a concept, but something that can solve a problem. So you make it as a storytelling, avoid jargons, and I think also make it useful. Look for a problem that he has to solve. Don't just tell somebody you're going to teach them how to extract DNA. If you teach them how to extract DNA, what next? What's the use? If you teach them how to make use of a pipette, what's the use? Right? All of this boils down to solving a problem. Everyone wants to be useful. So make people feel like science is going to make them useful and are going to be curious. Right? Make people feel that science is going to solve a problem for them and are going to want to go into that. So that's my advice.
All right,
Sure.
I like that punchline. Make people feel that science is going to make them useful. They're going to be useful. And that's a powerful one.
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
okay. You're a parent, Nnenna. And,
Yeah, sure. Two beautiful kids.
yeah, of course. And I want to ask you this: so, how do you think parents or communities as large can get involved in amplify this excitement at home or locally? Because the point is, we are in a developing country. We are not like America. We are not like Europe. We are not like most of these Eastern Asian countries that are advanced. We need to start incorporating science, because if you are serious about development, science should be part and parcel of every single thing that we do on this part of the world. So how can parents or communities get involved to amplify this excitement at home or locally?
All right. Now, okay, I'm going to use someone. Shout out to Omasilichi Onyeke. I don't know whether any of them is listening, but of course, I'm going to use this. So, this kid I just mentioned, of course, I'm a parent, but of course, my kids are quite young. But this kid I mentioned, I think it's about 5 or 6. So once, as a parent, you look at your child, right, and you look at the curiosity level of that child. So what I would say is, if you notice you have a very curious child, right? If you notice your child is someone who would always ask lots of questions, because they know that this is a scientist in the making, right? So what you can do is, don't shut them down. You see that curiosity that is building up in them, don't shut them down, right? You can begin to, show them that, oh, see, sometimes Omasilichi can ask you, why is there sizzling sound when you're adding onion to a hot oil, right? Then you have to begin to explain this and that and that. And she can come in and tell you, I think the one she asked me one day was, why is tomato always spoiling? You get tomato and before you know it spoils. Right? So when your child is like this, or when you feel like you want to actually make your child a very curious person, right? When your child is in that curiosity spectrum, right? All you need to do is foster that. You as a parent, I don't mean that you need to be a scientist, of course, but then you can now begin to find answers. So when she asks such questions, I begin to answer them. And you see, she'll be very excited. She can now begin to explain to people that this is this and this is that. And with that, they grow. They grow with it. Just like I mentioned, Mézières came as a Batterson participant, and that changed the course of her career. Now she's a medical scientist just because she was part of Back to Science initiative, right? And so many others. So what we can do is, at a young age, expose them to things that can make them think. Expose them to things that they can now want to begin to imagine, oh, this is not just nature. Nature happens this way, but then there's reason why it's happening. Why is that happening? Make them ask the whys. Also provide some answers to them when they ask those whys. So that's one.
It's very cardinal. Always also provide answers to them.
Yes. So parents always should know more than the kids. I agree with that.
All right, thank you so much, Nnenna, Lydia. Of course, you're dropping it like it's hot, like a science communicator.
Thank you, Chikesi. You're so kind.
All right, you are still onto the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Going Radio. And just as you know, the Science Brainwave is powered by DNALC Center Nigeria, Godfrey Okoye University. And for you to be part of the Science Brainwave competition, call us on 081-88-88-1069. I repeat, 081-88-88-1069 or on 080-7624-6701. I repeat, 080-7624-6701. And call us, participate, pick randomly from 50 questions we have here for you. Answer 5 correctly under 2 seconds per one question, and stand the chance of winning a very awesome cash prize to spend the weekend, just like our president, in our president's voice. Win the money, enjoy your weekend. All right, and we are still talking about science communication in today's world, igniting curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. And I have in the studio Nnenna Lydia, who is the lead instructor and as well as the science communicator with DNA Learning Center Nigeria. And then I'm going to ask you this: what unique challenges does science communication face in Nigeria? It's relatively new in a country like Nigeria. Like, when yeah, we still have few science communicators, but we don't really have people as consistent as you. Or let's still talk about Aproko, who is a medical doctor as well.
Yeah.
So, what unique challenges does science communication face in Nigeria? And I know barriers like language or limited access could rear its ugly head, but I know with experience, you could tell us some of these unique challenges and how do you think an institution like DNALC is tackling them?
Okay. First and foremost is you see, I think the Nigerian literacy, science literacy, is below 10%, right? So that's statistics. And when you're having such small percentage of people in science already, right? That are science literates. That's a very small percentage. So from that percentage now, picking out someone who would now want to communicate science in a very relatable way, right, is a challenge. So we are talking about people that are even in science. There's limited number of people that are in science. That's one thing. So we have to start making people to get into science first, right? And then before we now even convince them to start taking science communication up. So that's one thing. And as you mentioned, language barrier. I think I did have that issue once during the Back to Science initiative again. I'm bringing it up again because that was one program that fused a lot of students and secondary school students from rural areas and people from, I think, Abuja also came for that. So during one of those sessions, there's this school that came for a quite remote place, and they were not really good with English. It was a big challenge. But at DNA Learning Center Nigeria, the instructors that are there are bred differently. I can tell you for free, they are bred differently. There's no barrier. Nothing stops them. I think at that point, all of us, now imagine explaining to someone DNA extraction in Igbo. You even have to start looking for what DNA is in Igbo. So it was a big challenge, right? So the language barrier is a thing, but of course, most people understand Pidgin. So for you as an instructor, for you as a science communicator, you need to really understand that concept to the core. For you to be able to pass it on to someone who has a language barrier, you on your own need to understand it to the core. So I think that's another challenge. And of course, the infrastructure deficit. Oh my goodness. There are people who have graduates that they haven't even handled the pipette before. Not to talk of, doing the whole DNA extraction or polymerase chain reaction or gel electrophoresis or even sequencing and the rest of that. So the infrastructure is a big challenge. So someone may understand the concept, and because he or she hasn't had the hands-on experience in that, you can't communicate it to people. You need to really have had an experience. You need to have felt it before you can communicate it to someone. So these are the challenges that science communication is facing in Nigeria. And how DNLC comes in is we are promoting inquiry-based learning, right? We're promoting that students shouldn't just be taught, with words and just textbooks and PowerPoint presentations. No, the NLC is saying we have labs, equipped labs. We have very state-of-the-art lab facilities that can make your students top tier. They can have these skills and be able to push forward and challenge anyone around the world, of course. So the NLC just comes in and provides the facility, provides the infrastructure deficit and says, okay, no, we have this all covered. All you need to do is get yourself to the center. And of course, even if you can't get yourself to the center, we have mobile labs now, so they can get you to go to the school. We can get to the school and teach your students on on these molecular biology techniques or laboratory techniques, of course, not only molecular biology these days. We now do microbiology and biochemistry. These are things that we've incorporated along the line. So, yeah.
It becomes a win-win situation.
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, and then I need to like buttress on this. Okay, what's one way? Because you've already spoken about how instructors can balance teaching complex topics while making them accessible and exciting for diverse audience. You just gave an example of the fact that you had to break down teaching by petting in Igbo.
Yes.
So I want to ask you this.
Okay.
So that's one way instructors can lead public engagement? Because with what you're saying now, we need more public engagement. We need more public enlightenment. What's one way instructors can lead public engagement to foster a science-loving society? Because as it stands now, Nigeria seems like we're almost like an anti-intellectual society.
Yeah, sadly.
We get more interested in quote stupid things, but it excites us. And then you see a lot of people going into those stupid things to drive engagement, because attention is the new currency.
Exactly.
So, what's that one way as a science instructor you can suggest and that could help your colleagues, people like you who are passionate about this, and everybody, because all of us are supposed to be passionate about this.
Yes, of course.
Public engagement in this kind of thing.
We've already started the Chikeze, right? The whole DNA Explain series, right? You saw what we did with the whole DNA Explain series. So one way is outreach. One major way I would say is outreach. People, information is key. Information is power. So once we begin to let people know the power of science, once we begin to let people know what science can do, what we can do with science, right? People get interested. How do we get people to know? We have to make people know, go for outreach, right? Have public engagements, have these discussions we're having now. That's why I'm here. People are listening to me, people are watching, right? To see, okay, how is science communication, even a topic, right? So these are the things that people get to, go into, to begin to find a way to solve problems using science communication. So, of course, right, is a broad field, right? Because you can come in as an engineer, you're a scientist, you're in science, you're in tech, you're in STEM, right? And I'm coming in as a biotechnologist. So my field is quite different from yours. But what I preach when it comes to science communication is make it relatable. Whatever field you're coming from, make it relatable. Make it, I want to be able to explain science to anyone, even a primary school student, and the person can, understand that. So what you need to do if you want to get into this field is do the work on yourself. Don't just understand the periphery level, right? Understand it to the core, to the foundation level, so that you can be able to pass that knowledge very well and relatable, right? And another thing I'm saying I want to do is, right, you said we are looking like we're anti-intellectuals now. Yes, right? Because people now want engagement. They set up lights. And I was appalled when somebody was talking about water fast and water veggie. I didn't want to just go into the comment section and start talking. And of course, you know how it can be with people that have large audience. Their fans can come at you, and I wasn't prepared for that. But what I'm saying is, as a science communicator, you need to find a balance, right? Find a balance, make it look like you are trying to make science fun, but don't take science out of that. Because science has a roadmap. Right, still stick to that roadmap, but make it, balance it out. Don't make it too fun. Don't trivialize the hours of labor people have put in, right? By just trying to say you're breaking down science. No, make it relatable, make it fun, but also still within the axis of what science is based, which is evidence, right? It should be evidence based. So that's about that. That's what I can say.
This is a difficult question I want to ask you now, because I know you're not a policymaker.
Okay.
So, if you're given the opportunity now to advise, how do you think schools in rural areas can make science engaging without fancy equipment? Because vast majority are dwelling there.
Chiki said that. Thank you. You said it's a difficult question, right? It really is a difficult question, and I don't think most people would like my answer genuinely, and of course I will answer genuinely, of course, yeah. So it's going to be challenging, right, to communicate science just by mere talks, right, just by teaching. It's going to really be challenging that somebody can come in and start teaching science right on the board from beginning to the end without experiments. And that's what's happening in the rural areas. People come in and take textbooks and copy notes on the board, and that's how they say that science is taught. You see, chemistry labs don't even have anything. Biology labs don't have anything. So what I'm saying is, it is difficult. So, but then, of course, there are things we can do. First and foremost, the government needs to come in. The government needs to step in and, equip those labs. That's the answer. There's no boycott in science, right? You need to equip those labs. And of course, I think that the Enugu State government is quite interested in making Enugu State Silicon Valley of Nigeria, right? With the whole science city coming, I'm quite excited, and the people of Enugu should as well, right? Something is brewing that is big, that is massive. So yeah. The government of Enugu State is already interested in science. So equipping the labs, right, is one thing. And another thing I can say is the teachers, right? We should have, there was a time we did train the trainees, right? Or rather, train the trainers. So we trained the teachers on how to teach science. So how we then did it then we got teachers of primary schools and then sat them down to do these experiments themselves, understand it well, So when they understood it well, they now got a whole an overview of what the science, the experiments is all about, and they now was able to okay, I can go back and then teach. So for teachers, you can just look for things. Take the students out of the classroom. If it's a biology class, take them out of the classroom, let them be in the nature. If you're explaining reproduction to them, let them see reproduction. If you're explaining binary fission, propagation, all those things, let them be in the field. Let them see them. They don't just need to sit in the classroom and have all those lectures or all those classes. Let them be in the field. Make it relatable to the young minds. So those are the things. Of course, and I already said storytelling and the rest of that. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, if you're just joining us, whether on air or online, all you need to know that this is the Science Brainwave, and it's the episode 8 of the Science Brainwave. And today we are talking about science communication in today's world and igniting curiosity for a brighter tomorrow. And I have in the studio our lead instructor at DNALC Learning Center Nigeria, who is also a science communicator, and she has done justice to this team today. I believe you listening to us or watching us on Facebook or YouTube will attest to the fact that you've been enriched with her postulations on this topic. So final thoughts, Nnenna. So what's your biggest hope for the next generation through better science communication, of which you are dropping your 1 cent, your 5 cents on?
Okay. My hope, genuinely, what I do hope for is a generation where science is not seen as boring, right? I do hope for people to see science what really it is, which is a solution bringer, which is a problem solving technique or tool. So my hope for both science as a whole in Nigeria or science communication in Nigeria is that it gets the audience that it needs, right? And at the forefront of this field, right? We are at the forefront of this field. I am looking at, policymakers getting involved in this. I want it to be, because once the game changers get involved, of course, there will now be change in the game, of course. So my hope is that the science communication becomes bigger, of course, and people get to, appreciate the hours scientists or researchers put in their work, right? So because sometimes not even just hours. I mean, people put their lifelong dream on their work, right? They do hours of work, months, years of research. So I want science communication to lead to those appreciation. I want science communication to be something that people get to use to appreciate the work of researchers. That's my hope, right? That's what I do hope for.
And I hope so too. Thank you so much for making yourself available for today's conversation.
It was an absolute pleasure.
I was a bit afraid how I'm going to pull you because I know how busy you can
be. Yeah, when I saw your text saying you really did sound like you didn't have any other option than to write me. So
all right, thank you so much, Nnenna, Lydia, and we really appreciate your intake. And of course, it's awesome having you in the studio this Saturday. All right, and that was the Science Brainwave episode 8, and hope you had fun listening to us. And of course, if you're watching us online, thank you so much for joining us online on YouTube and on Facebook. I promise you by this time next week we're going to be back again, and it's going to be fun. Of course, it's going to be absolutely fun. All right, this is powered by DNALC Center Nigeria right here on 106.9 FM Go Unit Radio. And until see you next week, bye-bye, and keep appreciating science. And of course, remember, follow us each week for DNA Explained. The new season will be coming out soon, and of course, you'll be watching Nnenna watching us at the best.
Thank you, Chikese. Thank you.